Hi everyone! Welcome to the 11th episode of Ukraine War Uncovered, podcast about the war in Ukraine.
Today is 117th day of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine. My name is Pavlo and my colleague is Anna. We are Ukrainians and co-hosts of this podcast. In this podcast, we will uncover facts and stories about the war in Ukraine, some of which you may not hear from mainstream media.
We will provide you with key weekly updates about the war based on information from the ground, connect with eyewitnesses and experts directly from Ukraine, and share stories of wartime life inside Ukraine and stories of temporary displaced people. We will also uncover Ukraine, its culture, language, and history for you.
In this episode, we will cover Ukrainian volunteers as a social phenomenon in Ukraine. We will draw on the key stats and organizations to give you a brief but comprehensive overview on how important volunteers are. So, let's move to the topic of this week. We will start with providing key statistics about how Ukrainians themselves treat volunteering, and then we will move on to unusual examples of fundraising campaigns covering purchase of a satellite, Spartan armoured vehicle, and meals provided by the World Central Kitchen. We will then introduce our guests who will tell us more about their volunteering experience in Ukraine. Let's get started. To provide you with a brief context, it worth mentioning that volunteering in Ukraine did not begin on 24 February 2022. Ukrainian civil society and civic activists have been active for a long period of time. For instance, the Ukrainian Helsinki Group was founded on November 9, 1996, as the Ukrainian public group to promote the implementation of the Helsinki Accords on human rights. The group's goal was to monitor the Soviet government's compliance with the Helsinki Accords, which ensure human rights. The group was active until 1981, when all members were jailed by the Soviets. However, this did not prevent the creation of Ukrainian Helsinki Union on the group's basis at a 50,000-strong rally in Lviv on July 7, 1988. And this is only one of many such examples in Ukrainian history. After Ukraine declared its independence in 1991, Ukrainian civil society remained active, but it should be noted that the large spike in volunteers and NGO emerged after Russian invasion of Donbas in 2014. Now volunteers are involved in all parts of social and military life of Ukraine, ranging from military procurement and rehabilitation of soldiers to animal rescues, mental health support, legal aid, and rebuilding of Ukraine. Center for Sociological Studies Razumkov Center in February 2023 measured that volunteering organizations are the second trusted class of people after the Ukrainian army. According to the World Giving Index, a benchmark that measures how much population is involved in charitable and volunteering activities, Ukraine was 10th in the world in 2022, moving from 90th place in 2017 and 150th place in 2010. So, couple of stats. According to the survey results of the Ilko Kurchevev Foundation Democratic Initiative February 2023, the majority of surveyed Ukrainians, 61%, participated in volunteering activities to the defense forces of Ukraine or their fellow citizens. About 10% helped with physical work, 31% financially, almost 20% with both money and work. About 15% of Ukrainians reported that they did not help the army or displaced, but were going to do so. At the same time, almost 18% responded did not participate in such assistance and do not plan to do. As per Forbes Ukraine analysis as of November 2022, the world reacts acutely only to major changes. We can see it by numbers, says Yaroslava Grace, curator of the United 24 platform. As mentioned in one of our previous episodes, United 24 was launched by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, as the main venue for collecting charitable donations in support of Ukraine. Artists, sports stars, and other public figures joined United 24 as ambassadors. Yaroslava Grace gave a couple of examples how many different events influenced donations on the platforms. On August 29, a counteroffensive was announced. Donation to United 24 increased by 2.5 times. The release of Azov soldiers increased the donations 3 times. The large rocket attack on October 10th last year 7 times. Russian attacks increased donation not only to United 24. During the days of the massive shelling of civilian infrastructure, benefactors generally supported the armed forces more actively. In October alone, donations to United 24, Come Back Alive, and the Pritula Fund, two other large charitable foundations, amounted to 1.5 billion US, according to the data analysis service Open Databot. For a comparison, according to the Forbes in June, the 20 largest funds collected 3.1 billion Ukrainian hryvnias. Hope and rage motivate Ukrainians to donate more, and the foundation know how to use it. Prize draws, auctions of art and memorabilia, gatherings that trigger emotions. Ukrainian volunteers have an arsenal of creative techniques. The result, the 10 largest funds and initiative raised 63 billion hryvnias, equivalent of approximately $1.7 billion for the army and humanitarian needs in the first 9 months of full-scale war. In June 2023, there was an increase in donations. Despite the fact that since the beginning of 2023, Ukrainians began to donate less for defense needs, a record was set in June when almost half of all donations since the beginning of the year were collected in this month. This was reported by the open data platform Open Databot, which analyzes the receipt of 3 largest charitable foundations of Ukraine: United 24, Come Back Alive, Serhiy Pritula Foundation. In total, in the first 6 months 2023, 8.35 billion hryvnias were deposited in the accounts of 3 largest charitable foundations of Ukraine. For comparison, this is 22% less than during the second half of 2022.
Now let's move to several unexpected examples of volunteering and fundraising campaigns. Satellite purchase on August 18, 2022. Serhiy Pritula, a Ukrainian comedian, politician and volunteer, announced that his charity bought a satellite for the Ukrainian armed forces. The charity used the $20 million Ukrainians had fundraised for purchasing 4 Bayraktar drones in June. Back then, the Turkish manufacturer refused to take the money, offering 3 drones for free instead. According to Pritula's charity, they signed a deal with Finnish microsatellite manufacturer ICEYE. The company will provide Ukraine with access to its constellation of SAR satellites, allowing the Ukrainian armed forces to receive radar satellite imagery on critical locations with a high revisit frequency, the charity said. From now on, our army will receive high-quality satellite images as quickly as possible, which will help us with planning the military operations promptly, Pritula said.
Purchase of the Spartan armored vehicles. The transfer of the largest of such APCs to Ukraine is not due to British munificence nor procurement by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. It is instead just least example of the extraordinary scale and indeed speed of the crowdfunding campaigns that have been powering the Ukrainian military since the early days of the war. The fundraising appeal for the armored vehicles tagline "Grab them all" had only been launched on 2 November 2022 by Serhiy Pritula Foundation. It has been hoped that $5.5 million required for the major purchase would be secured within a week. Within 9 hours, half of the funds have been pledged by donors ranging from private individuals to big Ukrainian corporations and smaller high-street firms. By lunchtime on 9 November 2022, there was no need to continue pumping out the calls for cash, and the social media memes that had made of the conceit of the coming battle between Spartans and Persians, a wry-nod to the Iranian kamikaze drones that have been flogging Ukrainian cities in recent months. The money was secured, and the logistics of getting the tackled vehicles on the muddy plains of Donbas in eastern Ukraine was being put in motion. World Central Kitchen. Just to provide you a little context, World Central Kitchen is the first to the front lines, providing fresh meals in response to humanitarian, climate, and community crises. Founder Jose described it as follows: World Central Kitchen started with a simple idea at home with my wife Patricia. When people are hungry, send in cooks, not tomorrow, today. served more than 210 million meals for the year of the full-scale invasion in various areas of Ukraine, starting from Lviv area taking care of internally displaced people and going east and south to feed those under shelling. 175 million pounds of food was distributed in meal kits.
Now, we would like to introduce you with several brave and dedicated volunteers who support Ukrainians from abroad with humanitarian relief efforts and from inside the country, including close to the front lines. They will share their insights on volunteering experience in Ukraine. Volodymyr, could you please tell us about United for Change's humanitarian aid delivery project? What's idea, how much aid to Ukraine was delivered within this project, and who are the partners?
Hello, dear listeners. So the goal of this project was to establish a direct humanitarian aid from Ireland to Ukraine by building B2B partnerships with the business sector. As of now, we treat this as Ireland Plus because we are aiming to expand our network abroad, also to tackle the deliveries from the European Union and the US. How we do it? So basically, we partner directly with the businesses to deliver the goods basically from their warehouses to the recipients, or we also partner with other NGOs who are working to tackle the same issue. They're working with the same cause basically, and we help them with the optimization of their logistics. So until now, we delivered 16 trucks of stuff with approximately more than 2 million euros of goods. So currently, the main logistics partner is XPO Logistics. That's a fairly well-known company, but also their Google internal team actually helping us to facilitate this partnership as well. The whole idea of this project is to make the delivery as efficient as possible because this industry is highly inefficient. So if we're working with the businesses directly, so we're basically just trying to get their commitment to give us their goods, and we pick them up at their warehouse, so we don't have to have the warehouse like overhead on our own, and then we deliver directly to the recipient on the Polish border or the Romanian border. If we're trying to help out with NGOs, usually we would have the same requirements. Either we're using the warehouse of their donor or maybe their own warehouse to make sure we don't actually have another intermediate warehouse. So we also deliver directly to the recipient. So the main idea is to make this process as smooth and as efficient as possible, which in the end of the day translates into the better quality of the project and the impact that we deliver.
Our next guest is Ruslan. Ruslan, could you please tell us about your volunteering in Ireland, how Palyanica project worked, and also explain about Auri humanitarian aid work, what type of aid was delivered and where it comes from?
Hi everyone. I guess the volunteering work from probably day number 2, day number 3, I step into this volunteers world, and because we didn't have a choice, somebody had to do it. So we kind of we were trying to help straight away. As I mentioned, from day number 2. So by using my own kind of a business shops around the Dublin, we became a little collection points for the aid for the Ukrainians. And we were sending everything to Ukraine. And one day we just came up with way too much donations that people were so generous, and that's how the idea of Palyanica, the hub, the Ukrainian hub, came up into my head. So we decided to open Palyanica, and we decided to open a place where the newly arrival Ukrainians can come in and collect anything they like for free. So a lot of people were arriving to Ireland with just the documents, or just passports and nothing else with them. So they didn't even have a basics. So by the time they were getting social welfare payments, there was about 1.5, 2, 3 weeks. Some of them didn't really have any money as well. So the Palyanica was the destination. So I opened one in Clarendon Street in Dublin 2, just off the Grafton Street. Thanks to the landlords, Aviva kindly offered us absolutely free of charge the place. So we had that for 6 months. It was a great success. A lot of people that were coming were happy, living with at least basics like toiletries, some clothes, some shoes, anything. We had a lot of kids, even we had some toys for the kids. Also, we had a psychologist working in full-time with us as well. We had some information corner there as well. Within about probably around 4 to 5 months, we managed to spread kind of a franchise of Palaneta around the country, and we end up with 7 locations around the country. And it happened, as I mentioned, just like around 5 months time, which it was really fast growing. And again, the same thing, every Palaneta was giving away free stock for the newly arrived Ukrainians. Well, AURI, the Association of the Ukrainians in Republic of Ireland, at the time when the war started, and I think now as well, at the moment, was the only Ukrainian registered charity. So we had the chance to collect the donations. We had the chance to do such a work, and everything was absolutely legitimate, and everything was the way by the law and regulations. So at the time, AURI had 2 projects. The first project was called Medical Help Ukraine. The bunch of Ukrainian doctors gathered together, and they did a collection. I think at the time they collected around 800,000 euros. They were buying a lot of medical stuff. I think they purchased in around 19 ambulances and 1 armored ambulance, and everything was sent to Ukraine, as well as the CT scanners and lots of more different medical supplies. And as well, Palaneta was under the umbrella of AURI. We were having a rough calculation by the end of 2022, monetary and not monetary, including 7 Palanetas, all of the donations that were given away to the Ukrainians and sent to Ukraine. We were calculating there's just under 20 millions worth of help was done by the end of 2022. So what I can say about AURI is just, I'm not sure if people knows or not, but it's done a lot for Ukraine, and it keep doing a lot for Ukraine. And at the moment, we already signed the contract and the lease for the premises in Tala, which is a 5,500 square meters unit. It used to be a Mark & Spencer there with a proper loading base. And this is one of the biggest, probably, depots for the Ukrainian aid in Ireland. We just about to sign the agreement with HSC. We're already working with them directly. HSC is donating all of the decommissioned equipment and sometimes even the new items as well. And it's all sent to Ukraine. And all of this is not just AURI, it's basically a bunch of people, a bunch of different companies, including yourselves guys. You know, the United for Changes, they were kind of a breach in between the Google and the AURI that managed to organize the trucks paid to Ukraine, thanks to Google as well. They're paying for the shipments. We deal with different companies, like even companies like Van Body, for example. Jim, he somehow knows the friends that work in Meta Hospital, and he so far supplied us with, I don't know, probably 100 mattresses already been sent to Ukraine. Also, the Mishnok, Andy Kenny, and Volodymyr, that's how they call. They are just agreed with a nice agreement with the gym that's supplying with the equipment, decommissioned equipment as well. So the equipment from gym is going to Ukraine, and it will be supplied to the rehabilitation centers. The gym name is Westwood Gym. Different individuals, even some people like Liam, for example. I don't know what he does. I don't know what he's doing, but so far I will be organizing the 3rd 40-foot truck. That's 26 pallets, and each truck will be gone to Ukraine in the middle of August as well. And so many more different donors that are willing to help. But the main supplier for us now is HSC Ireland. They are giving quite a lot as well.
Yelizaveta, could you tell us about your humanitarian aid work?
I've been living in Ireland for the past 10 years, and it's been a hard journey for a year and a half of volunteering in this country. So yeah, like pretty much most of the volunteers in Ireland, we do a lot of stuff, a lot of ongoing projects in different directions, but most of them are directed towards getting as much help as we can to Ukraine, because as much as we want to help Ukrainians here in Ireland, they are well looked after, while we know that the main challenges and the main problems are in Ukraine and the main help that is needed is there. So we pretty much are trying to get everything we can to there. There are obviously things that we prioritize when we can. So Ireland is really, really good in medicine. So whenever we get the chance to collaborate with any medical institutions, we obviously try to get as much as we can help there. Ireland is a neutral country, so it's hard to get any military help here, but we still do a lot of private campaigns. By we, I mean a lot of single people here on island that took upon them, challenges to collect money, to do little events that collecting money, to look in every possible way that they have to get the help that is needed, because most of us have our friends on the battlefield, most of us have our relatives on the battlefield. Well, mine too, unfortunately, have already died. So I am doing my journey into helping the others who are still there and still standing. Priorities of fundraising. It's hard to say because we are limited on what we are able to do. As a single person who is not famous, who is not, doesn't have any, popular skills that would bring me a lot of views and bring a lot of money, I can do only that much. So the past year I've been concentrating on collecting money for some single requests for drones, for some single requests for medical help, and that's mostly it. And then we were trying to find the right place for all the things that Irish people were offering. So when me and my friends made a campaign of asking about repairing equipment, pretty much anything that you can use to repair houses, we got really, really good donations that helped a lot of people in some destroyed villages around Kherson and around Ukraine. When Irish people got asked for ambulances, for pretty much anything medical related, and really often we find ourselves in the places when Irish people offer something and you have to find the right place in Ukraine to bring it to. So there's a lot going on. It's really hard to say what I'm doing, because I feel like I'm a part, like a small part of a really huge movement that is not functioning separately, that we are like none of us on, it's a small island. There's only like 5 million people here, and we all know each other. And our strength is in being united, pretty much. So when we have a request, the best thing is to share it with others, and that's how we find things. When we have questions, the best thing is to, work together. Who has the possibility to transport things? Who has the possibility to find the right place for this request? Who has the possibility to assemble money, and who can help us to do campaign together to assemble money? So it's hard to say. My last campaigns have been about the drones, yes.
Maxim, could you tell us about your volunteering work in Ukraine, please?
Good afternoon, Pablo. It's great to see you. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Max. Before the full-scale invasion, I was a member of the board of the Ukrainian Students' League, and I'm also a part of the Kinstellar team. This is a law company. So before the February 24, 2022, the main mission of our organization, Ukrainian Students' League, which is the largest student organization in Ukraine, was to develop a culture of students and YAS life to create changes in Ukrainian society by creating an ecosystem of YAS environment in Ukraine for the development, coordination, as well as representation of the interests of students all over the Ukraine. The Ukrainian Students' League unites more than 60 of the most respected universities of Ukraine and more than 20 YAS NGOs. However, after the full-scale invasion started, our organization started to supply humanitarian goods to internally displaced persons, hospitals, and the armed forces of Ukraine. Our organization has warehouses and a logistic network for delivering humanitarian goods from abroad and from the Ukrainian donors to hard-to-reach areas and the areas of hostilities. In addition, we provide shelters for free accommodation for internally displaced persons who have been forced to leave their homes due to Russia's war against Ukraine. So, as I previously mentioned, our team consists of YAS people, of students, and we have opened and managed 6 shelters in Dnipro city. This is one of the biggest cities in Ukraine, but which locates very close to the front line. I mean, 150 kilometers away from the very front line. And more than 300 internally displaced persons can accommodate in our shelters. We also built the most modern center, not only for short-term living, but for long-term accommodation of internally displaced persons in Ukraine. The center can accommodate up to 56 IDPs, and this is the families with small children. We started a lot of fundraised campaigns, and we succeeded. So we fundraised more than $300,000, and we do these buildings processes and provide IDPs with their comfort living conditions. We have also successfully organized 6 charity festivals in Lviv, in Dnipro, in Kyiv, and the festivals feature performances by famous musicians, stand-up comedians. Visitors can enjoy lectures there. Also, there are available food courts, master classes, game zones, and etc. And the money raised at these festivals is used for the humanitarian needs of Ukrainians affected by war, and also for buying vehicles for Ukrainian army. It's also important to mention that our organization has also transferred 53 vehicles to the army. Our charity organization also provides systematic support to armed forces. We've delivered more than 60 tons of supplies to the Ukrainian army at the very front line, including, for example, gasoline generators and stoves, body armor and car pants, military uniforms and tactical shoes, medicines and personal care products, and also provisions. We also support hospitals, not only for soldiers, but also for civilians. We have already donated more than 50 tons of medicine and medical equipment to such hospitals. So we also do this. As I mentioned before, our team mostly consists of students, and we also launched a campaign for blood donations. And in total, 62 liters of blood were collected. This all the blood was donated by their students who live in Kyiv, who live in Odessa, who live in Dnipro, and we show the society that you can do good things not only by, for example, buying something, but also you can do good things and save lives of our heroes by your own body, by donating your own blood. And this is not all of our projects. You can find more information about all the projects implemented by the Ukrainian Students League on our website. I will send you the link, or you can reach it on our Facebook or Instagram page. But also I want to share with you our plans for the further work. First of all, we understood that we succeed in building like smart flats. We call it smart flats for internally displaced persons, and we spend a very small sum of money per every square meter. Just for example, we built a really comfortable places for living just for $280 per 1 square meter. All their works included. I mean, not only building works, but also building materials, all the furniture, all their other equipment, and also technique. But for example, if we can make an market analysis, their average the average money that spends for the same works is around $500. So we show all the society like an example how we can build fastly, effectively, and really cheap. And we would be really happy if, for example, some of people abroad, for example, some British people, some Irish people, can join our fundraise campaign and can help us, can support us in the field of providing the living places for internally displaced persons. It's really important because it's hard to imagine how just to leave your own house, which you're then destroyed, and this is very hard situation to understand. For example, when you lost everything that you collected for all your life, and you have no place to return back, and you need to restart your life. So we help these people to restart their life, to not only we supported them not only with the place to live, but also with some but with a lot of free services. I mean the support, employment support, psychological support, also law support, and something like that. So we want to share our activities abroad, to share information about our activity, and would be happy to cooperate with as many people as it could be.
Now, let's move on to the updates from the front line. 17th July, according to the Institute for the Study of War, the July 17th attack on the Kerch Strait bridge will likely have continuing ramification on Russian logistics in southern Ukraine. Russian authorities accused Ukrainian Special Service of conducting an unnamed surface vehicle strike against the Kerch Strait bridge between Russia and occupied Crimea on the morning of July 17th. Footage of the aftermaths show that one Kerch Strait bridge road span had collapsed and another span suffered damage but remains intact. Analysts note that Ukrainian troops continued counteroffensive operation in at least 3 areas of the front against the background of the intensification of Russian offensive operation along the border of the Kharkiv and Luhansk region on July 17th. Russian and Ukrainian sources reported that Russian troops have launched active offensive operation and advanced in the Kupiansk region between northern eastern Kharkiv and northwestern Luhansk region over the past few days. 18th July, British analysts noted that during last week fighting continued in many areas of the front lines, while both sides achieved minor advances in various directions. In particular, in northeast, Russian troops tried to advance westwards through the forest near Kreminna, At the same time, Ukraine continues to make significant efforts around Bakhmut, which is held by Russia. Analysts point out that the Russian forces here are probably unstable, but for now they are holding on. Around Avdiivka in Donetsk region, Russian troops continue to attempt local assaults, but without much success. Ukrainian General Syrsky explained why quick results in the offensive are practically impossible. According to the commander of the ground forces of Ukrainian armed forces in the east and south of Ukraine, the territory is full of mines and defensive barriers, and the Russians have many strong points. Therefore, our advances is not as fast as we would like, General said. The defense forces of Ukraine have had some success in the Tavria direction during the day of 17 July. More than 3 enemy companies were killed or wounded. Source commanded of the operation and strategic group of troops Tavria Alexander Tarnivsky in the Telegram. 19th July, the defense forces of Ukraine knocked out Russians from position near Orikhovo-Vasilievka in the direction of Bakhmut, said the spokesperson of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Andriy Kovalev. The most recent ESW maps as of July 2023. Bakhmut direction, Ukrainian counteroffensive seen from at least 5 directions around Bakhmut. Zaporizhia direction, Ukrainian counteroffensive seen from at least 3 directions, including south from Orikhiv and south and northeast of Gulyaipole.
Now let's move to weekly news update. 18th of July, that night Russians launched 6 Caliber missiles and 36 Shahed drones. Ukrainian air defense forces shut down all missiles and 31 drones. The European Court of Human Rights rejected all Russian claims against Ukraine, including the allegations that it was Ukraine who shut down the Malaysian Boeing MH17 that we mentioned in the last episode. Ukrainian passport ranked 30 in the international passport ranking by Henley and Partners, moving 4 positions up from the last year. Ukrainian passport holders can visit 146 countries without visa. July 19th, on the night from 18th to 19th of July, Russians launched the largest missile attack on Odessa. Russian ships fired 12 calibers at the city. All of them were shut down. Russian aviation struck with X-59 and X-22 missiles. One downed X-59 missile fell in a residential area. Several buildings were damaged. 3 civilians were injured. The enemy hit grain and oil terminals with Onyx and X-22 missiles, damaging tanks and equipment. In Odessa, there is a hit in an industrial object, 2 warehouses in different locations with tobacco and fireworks. There is a fire on 3,000 square meters. There is an injured person. 8 Shahed 136 drones were also shot down in the sky. Objects in the coastal zone of the Kobliv area were damaged as a result of falling debris. 2 civilians were injured. In addition, as a result of combat work to destroy missiles and drones, several apartment buildings were damaged by the blast wave. At least 6 Odessa residents were injured. Russian rockets destroyed 60,000 tons of grain in the port of Chornomorsk. This was announced by the Minister of Agrarian Policy, Solsky. This grain was meant to be shipped to China. 100 tons of peas and 20 tons of barley were also destroyed. On July 20th, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has reported on the introduction of almost 300 NATO standards in the defense forces. On the 21st of July, the inspection of the United States in the line of material and technical assistance certified the absence of claims on the part of the American side to Ukraine's accounting of weapons and military equipment. Deputy Minister of Defense Volodymyr Gavrilov announced this while commenting on media reports on alleged theft of Western weapons. A French citizen accidentally swam to Ukraine during his kayak trip. He surprised himself and the border guards. A French citizen made a 51-day trip by kayak. He lost his bearings and accidentally swam to the waters of the port of Reni in Ukraine. This surprised both him and the border guards. On the 22nd of July, according to CNN, the Defense Intelligence Agency has no reason to doubt Russian President Vladimir Putin's claim that Russia has moved a first batch of tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus, senior DIA official said on Friday. Putin said last month at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum that the first Russian nuclear warheads were delivered to the territory of Belarus, adding that they were placed there for deterrence. On the 23rd of July, at night, Russia fired 19 missiles of various types over Odessa. The air defense forces managed to shut down 9 aerial targets. Russians used caliber Onyx X-22, Iskander-K and Iskander-M. 22 people were injured, including 3 children, and 1 was killed. The famous Transfiguration Cathedral was severely damaged. The Transfiguration Cathedral was originally built in the early 1800s to be the main church in southern areas of Ukraine, conquered by the Russian Empire. The original cathedral was demolished in 1936 under Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, but was rebuilt between 1999 and 2003 under independent Ukraine. The Italian embassy stated that the country is ready to participate in the reconstruction of the Transfiguration Cathedral and other historical buildings. As a result of the Russian attack on July 23rd in Odessa, according to preliminary information, 61 buildings and 146 apartments in them were damaged, the city council reported. Currently, community workers are helping Odessa residents to clear rubble, clear roads and yards. Previous attacks have damaged regional ports and grain silos, but Sunday strikes severely affected Odessa's historic town, which was designated a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in January. On the 24th of July, around 4 a.m., Russians attacked Odessa ports again, destroying a warehouse with grain and injuring 4 port employees. It's been a very difficult week for people in Odessa and Odessa region. Pablo and I, we are from Odessa, and of course our hearts are with our friends and families and all people who live in Odessa. And that's why on our table we have this wonderful book, Awesome Odessa.
Now let's move into the week of the history of Ukraine. 21st July 1906, a famous Ukrainian poet and activist Olena Teliha was born. The poetic heritage of Olena Teliha is quantitatively small, only 38 poems are known, but in terms of content it has unparalleled value. Her unique voice sounded in the poetry, a feature inherent in her work which literary critics define as passionateness of love and lyrics. Her poetry exhibits some features of the classicism that became popular in the 1930s. Little known outside of Ukraine, Teliha was a poet, a newspaper editor, and a fighter for Ukrainian independence, who is widely admired in Ukraine. Killed by Germans, she became an icon for Ukrainian people searching for national heroes during time of full-scale invasion. Arrest and death is practically fascinating and tragic. In the 1940s, Teliha did not take into account decrees of Nazis authorities. She ignored the instruction of the Nazis. In 1942, the arrest of Ukrainian nationalists began, but Teliha categorically refused and concentrated all her work in the Union of Ukrainian Writers. In a private conversation, she stubbornly emphasized, "I will not leave Kiev for emigration again. I cannot." She knew what she was going for. She was not going to run away. On the February 9, friend warned that the Gestapo was preparing an ambush in the premises of the Union, and they advised her not to go there. But Teliha said, "People are waiting for me. I cannot avoid coming because I am afraid of arrest. In the end, they will also be arrested. When I don't come back, don't forget about me. When I die, know that I have fulfilled my duty to the end." She and her husband were shot at a place known to whole world, Babin Yar, the site where Kiev Jews were executed by Nazis in September 1941, to be followed by representatives of other nations and groups, including Ukrainian nationalists. In 1982, Teliha poems were published for the first time in Ukraine. And in 2017, a remarkable monument of this amazing woman was erected in Babyn Yar.
Now let's move to word of the week. Bisagi, a traditional Ukrainian bag that was used by people in western Ukraine to carry goods and food. The word bisagi comes from the Latin bisatium, literally a double bag. It is believed that it entered the Ukrainian language under the influence of Laks or Moldovans, who also used this name. In the Hutsul region, bisagis were woven in higher mountain villages. In appearance, they were black and white or yellow, black and white. They consisted of two sections, bisagis. In ancient times, every household had such a double bag. In ancient times, they were carried to the church in bisagis on Easter to celebrate the great Passover. At that time, Paskas, Ukrainian traditional Easter pastry, were baked so large that sometimes the edges of the bisagi had to be torn apart so that it would fit. Vegetables, fruits, and various sale were carried to the market in bisagi.
That's it for today. In the next episode, we will cover Black Sea Grain Initiative, the initiative on the safe transportation of grain and foodstuff from Ukrainian ports, how it helped to mitigate world food crisis, and how Russia's aggressive war and illegal actions undermines all these efforts. Please don't forget to like and comment on this episode of the podcast. We would also appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel and share the link to this podcast with your friends. Thank you for being with us today and see you next week.
Actually, hear you next week. Glory to Ukraine!
Glory to heroes.